content creators, welcome back here to One Man Video. Today we're going to be doing part 2 of our review of the Juncrane V2 3-axis gimbal. Now in the last video we did the unboxing, so if you haven't seen that, go back and watch that. That's going to give you a good start to it. Today we're going to actually be putting it together. We're going to be putting the camera on, balancing it, and then on the last video that we'll do, the next one, we're going to be looking at some footage to help you understand why this might be a good fit for what you're looking to do. Now again, just let me lay out here kind of the premise to One Man Video. If this is the first video you've seen, I am not a videographer by trade. I'm actually a software engineer, but I've been creating a lot of content for some other sites, and I'm figuring out the best way to use the right equipment to efficiently create and push out content on a regular basis. So if you're going on this journey with me, man, I am glad that you are here. Now, let's dive in and let's look at this gimbal. So to get started, let's go here and look in here at what we have. We have here the bottom of the gimbal, which actually where we're going to drop in the 2 batteries that come with it. Now, this is a point of clarification from the unboxing. Previously, I had kind of mentioned that it comes with 2 batteries, and I need to kind of call out that you need both batteries every time you run it. Now, based on what reviewers have said, there's a pretty good life with these batteries. You get about 6 hours, but I would encourage you, if you're going to be using these out on a shoot, you're going to want to have an extra set that you can be charging. It also comes with 1 charger and a micro USB cable. So if you grab just 2 extra batteries, that's going to be enough to have a backup when you shoot. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to screw this in to the bottom of the gimbal. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about the camera. So here I have my Canon 80D. Now, this comes with, or I'm actually using the 18-35 with this that actually has the stepper motor built in for autofocusing. So this is a great camera because I'm going to be out and about with the gimbal. I record most everything I do outside of the studio with this 80D. So this gives me the ability to kind of capture on the go. This is why I'm looking at this camera with this gimbal. Now, important thing to remember is I have actually weighed this camera with this lens on it. This comes in just a hair under 3 pounds. I believe it's about 2 pounds and 8 ounces. And one of the things you need to know is there is a limit on this gimbal. With any gimbal, there's going to be a limit in terms of the amount of weight that it supports. And on this one, it's going to generally be, I believe, about 3.5 pounds. So you're going to want to actually weigh your camera to see if it's a good fit. Now, if you have a full frame, something like a 5D, it's probably not going to fit because of that weight. This is really targeted at people that are using things like, the Panasonic, the GH4, GH5, GH5S, Sony A7, something like that, a lighter camera, and something that's probably not full frame. So this 80D is going to be a good fit for us in terms of that. Now there are some special integrations included with the gimbal for Sony and Panasonic cameras. So you get some extra ability to actually control those cameras with this gimbal. But today we're just going to be using the 80D. I have GH4s here in the studio, so at some point I'll pull one of those out and put it with the gimbal and test out some of that functionality. But for today, we're just going to stick with this 80D for the moment. Now, once we've got this in place, we have our camera, let's look at what it's going to be to actually get this mounted. So the first thing that I'm going to do, and let me just call out, if you actually get the version of this that actually comes with the kind of monopod stand at the bottom, that will actually help you in this process. But I'm going to start off by actually getting the camera mounted onto the base plate of the gimbal. Now, the first thing you want to call out here is, in the instructions, they call out that you actually want your camera to be close to this tilt motor. So I'm going to actually flip this over, and I'm going to go ahead and put the mounting screw in. It's a little bit awkward to do this so that you guys can see it, but we will get it in there. Okay, and we can see I'm going to be sure it's pushed over and that it's even with the front, and we will finish tightening that mounting screw. Now, I have actually already balanced this. This is going to be relatively close, but this will give us a chance to look at some aspects of the balancing. So the first thing that we're going to do, and I'm actually going to look at the instructions because I want to be sure that I get this right for you guys. The first thing we want to do is we want to look at this tilt point right here. And so there is a screw on the bottom that we can actually unscrew, and this allows us to move the camera backwards or forwards. So I'm going to move this one back. Okay, and we can see, oh, now it's tilting backwards, so I'm going to need to actually push this forward just a little bit. And we see now it's moving forward, so we're really close. I'm just going to move it now back just a tad. Okay, and now we're still falling back, so forward just a tad. Let's get this positioned, and we can see, boom, it actually stays. So that means that we have that point balanced, and so we can go ahead and then tighten that back up. So that is our first balance point that we're going to be looking at on this, the level adjustment for the tilt axis. Then we're going to actually move over, and we're going to do a different one. We want to be able to see here that the camera, the lens will remain pointing straight up. Okay, and in this case it is, but what we would do is we would actually unscrew this tilt here, and we would actually move this forward or backwards to actually get this to be balanced. And so that one is in a good spot. Now the next one that we have is we're actually going to have the roll axis. And so this is going to be this screw right here on the back. So when we hold this still, we should see that this camera is going to remain in the ideal position here and not tilting any of the roll on the roll axis, right? So we don't want this tilting to the right or tilting to the left. It should be able to remain relatively still. And in this case it is, so we have that on a balance point. Now, the last one, and this one is tricky because this one requires you to actually hold the gimbal out to the side, okay? And we actually want to be able to see here if we can keep this in the correct position, okay, just by holding it. Now, if you notice, if this back end is going to move up to the top, or if it's going to go down to the bottom, anytime you do this, you're going to have to adjust this balance point for the gimbal. And the way you do that is, if you look here, we have this screw here at the bottom, and this actually causes this whole assembly to move in or out, and you set that to the ideal position. And then once you get that done, you're going to then have the camera actually balanced for use with the gimbal. Now, once we have all of that done, and again, when you do it your first time, it should be the longest that it will take you to do it anytime you have it. Now, there's a few reasons for that. One is because obviously you're just getting used to doing it, and the other reason is because you're going to have the biggest difference in terms of where it's set to where your camera is. Once you're used to your camera, and once this is used to your camera and set up for it, it's going to be pretty quick to go through and make those adjustments. But important thing to understand is you need to allow for there to be about, let's say, 5 minutes once you get the gimbal out to get it balanced with your camera for every single use. Then once that's done, you're able to actually just get the gimbal. You can actually go in and press. There's a camera button, give it a long press, boom, and then you're good to go. And that's how we set up the Zhun Crane V2 3-axis gimbal. Stay tuned for the next video, as we're going to be looking at some of the footage that I've shot with this gimbal, and you can see if it makes sense to put into your rig. Now listen, you can get a link to purchase this Zhun Crane V2 as a way of supporting what we're doing at One Man Video in the descriptions. And if you haven't subscribed yet, man, why not go ahead and subscribe right now so you can get all the videos that we put out to help you create better content. Thanks for joining us here on One Man Video.